For many of us, there is no more stressful time of day than right when you first open your eyes and the first few minutes to maybe even an hour of the morning. And there are a few reasons for this. You will probably never have less energy, less attention, and worse brain functioning than you do in the first hour of your day. Conversely, you will probably never have more obligations, more responsibilities, or a longer to-do list than when you first wake up because you haven't done anything yet. And so for so many of us, we get hit with the awareness of both of these two stressful stimuli simultaneously. I'm tired, I don't feel good, I don't know if I slept very well, I'm not sure if my brain isn't working, and I have a whole bunch of crap to do today. This overlap of circumstances creates sort of a perfect storm of stress that for so many of us causes our days to start with extreme stress and anxiety or even panic. And a day that starts stressful usually continues to be stressful unless something unexpectedly good happens. Because the way our days start basically establish our default emotional state throughout the day. It creates a sort of momentum or inertia that this is how I feel today. And unless something knocks you off of that momentum in one direction or the other, you pretty much stay feeling that way throughout the day. Even if you get some stuff done, and even once you wake up and actually feel a little bit more with it. So when we start our day by laying in bed and scrolling stressful, overstimulating social media while trying to ignore the growing sense of impending doom, which is a great band, by the way, that the moment where we have absolutely run out of time to procrastinate, and now we need to get up and get out of bed and get ready as quickly as possible or else we're going to be late, is inching ever closer to us like a lion stalking a wounded gazelle. And so today I'm going to review with you 16 strategies that can decrease the anxiety you feel in the morning that take 1 minute or less per strategy to accomplish. And just because these things don't take a long time to implement, do not let that make you think that they aren't powerful. The amount of time something takes is not a great indicator of how useful that thing is. These are strategies that can dramatically reduce your morning anxiety and help you start your day on a positive note so that maybe, just maybe, you will actually feel halfway okay today unless something bad actually happens to you. I'm going to break these strategies down into two distinct time frames. Some of them are going to be things you use in the morning, right after you've waken up, but there's a few of them that I'm actually going to encourage you to use the night before. Because the tone with which we go to bed, some of the conditions for our morning have already been set by the time we go to bed. So if you want to have a good morning tomorrow morning, your work actually begins tonight. The first thing I want you to think about doing the night before you go to bed is put your phone across the room before you get into bed. I bet you've never, ever heard that piece of advice before, have you? I know it's not exactly mind-blowing, but here's the thing. I'm equally willing to bet that most of the people listening to this right now still don't do it because we hear it over and over and over again and we don't implement it. I usually tend to think when someone knows something but isn't using it, it's because someone hasn't fully explained to them why it matters or why it helps, and they just said do it in kind of a commanding type way. So here's the reason you should do this. There's actually two of them. Number one, you will be far less tempted to be on your phone while you're trying to fall asleep if your phone is not within arm's reach of the bed. And this is probably the number one cause of behavioral insomnia, is spending time on your phone. There is nothing, and I mean nothing, conducive to falling asleep about having a bright screen. And I don't care if you put it on nighttime mode. I don't care if you have your special little blue light glasses. You're holding a digital screen inches away from your face, and it is bombarding you with visual and auditory stimuli. There is nothing about that activity that is going to make your brain say, I should stop doing stuff and go to sleep now. In fact, the opposite. But this one is kind of a hack, a double hack, if you will, because this also helps you in the morning, and this is going to be a little bit of a spoiler alert. But it's also important to get out of bed when you wake up. And if you can reach your phone from your bed, it's a lot harder to do that. I cannot even tell you how many times in my life I've been late to work or to class because I had my alarm set correctly, and the version of myself that had been awake for 3 seconds did not realize the importance of the alarm he was hearing and simply said, "This is annoying, let's turn that off." Then I wake up 3 hours later and I'm like, why didn't my alarm go off? Well, it did. I just wasn't awake enough to know it was going off before I shut it off. So move your phone. It will help you. The second thing before bed is to set your clothes out for the next day. Yes, just like your mom hopefully used to do for you when you're in kindergarten. Or really, you could expand this one too. Any task or responsibility that you have to do in the morning that you could potentially do the night before, do it the night before, because you have a lot more energy like an hour before you go to bed than 5 minutes after you wake up. So if we can take some of that crushing morning obligation that you feel when you wake up and defer it to the night before, so that when you wake up, you're like, hey, my past self already did some of my work for me. That's cool. I have less on my to-do list now. Thanks, past self. Not only do you get some chronological gratitude for your own being, you also have less to do. Clothes are the main one I think of. And so yes, I actually do this. I practice what I preach. Every single thing on this list I do every day. I pick my outfit the night before. Frankly, I think that's part of the reason my outfits always match pretty well. I don't know if you guys can see that from the shoulders up, but do you notice that the black t-shirt goes with the matte black on my watch? That's not a coincidence. And you know who couldn't figure that out? Scott, who's been awake for 5 minutes. You know who can figure that out? Scott, who's been awake for 15 hours. Do the stuff in the morning. Your day will go better. The third is before bed, spend some time in prayer or meditation or something along those lines. These are these calming, grounding activities that help our brain shift from beta wave mode to alpha wave mode. So beta waves and alpha waves are the two types of brain waves you experience while you are awake and alert and conscious. Beta waves are what you have running the majority of your day. And they're the high frequency brain waves that help you work and interact socially and do high stimulation tasks. They're like your busy brain. Alpha waves are the brain waves you experience when you are still awake, but you're calm, relaxed, at ease, exactly the way you want to feel before you go to bed, so that you aren't essentially skipping a step and having this really intense transition from I'm awake and I'm alert and I'm doing complicated adult stuff to now I would like to be unconscious. That's a dramatic transition. Our brains don't like dramatic transitions. They don't really work. And if we implement alpha wave promoting activities in between ending our work and trying to go to sleep, you will fall asleep faster, sleep will be less stressful, and you will move through your sleep cycles more quickly. They're also just things that are good for you in general. Building off that, the fourth thing is to practice breath work. And you don't have to do anything complicated or technical here. If you are breathing in a manner in which your breath is slower and deeper than it was before, you're doing breath work. And any amount of slower, deeper breathing is going to shift the functioning of your autonomic nervous system from sympathetic mode, which is fight or flight mode, to parasympathetic mode, which is rest and digest mode. Guess which one of those you want to be in when you're trying to sleep. Parasympathetic rest and digest mode. I mean, it's literally in the name, rest, sleep. So try to do some breath work. Even just a minute of breath work before bed, it can make a big difference. The fifth is to do progressive muscle relaxation or light stretching. Progressive muscle relaxation means you're taking certain parts of your body. You can do a full body one, or you can do specific parts of your body or places in your body. And you're focusing on areas where you already notice a lot of muscle tension, and you're intentionally tensing those muscles even beyond their already tense point. And what this does is it actually simulates engagement in a fight or flight response. So throughout a day, especially a stressful day, our nervous system cannot tell the difference between social stress or occupational stress and mortal danger. So it builds up all this energy in your body, you might have to run away from a bear or punch a robber or something. But hopefully those things aren't actually happening to you on the regular. So you get all this energy stored up in your body. It has nowhere to go because most of us don't actually face physical danger. And it just stays there and it just gets stuck. And then when we try to go to bed, we feel tense and tight and restless. And doing progressive muscle relaxation or light stretching is a great way to release some of that tension and help your body feel relaxed and buttery and just move through your stages of sleep much more quickly and easily. The sixth, and this is the final pre-bed strategy, after this we're going to move to your morning, is to use a sleep mask. Visual and auditory stimuli negatively affect your sleep quality, even if they don't wake you up. So this can be happening to you and you might not even know it, because sleep, your restfulness, is an outcome of the interaction between quantity of sleep and quality of sleep. It's possible to get enough sleep but get poor sleep and still feel tired and groggy and worn out all day long. If you live by a busy street or have a partner that snores or tries to fall asleep with the TV on or anything like that, anything that has stimuli in your sleep environment, your sleep quality might be suffering even if your sleep quantity is adequate. Poor sleep quality can impact our mood dramatically, especially our ability to regulate emotions like anxiety and irritability, and a sleep mask can really help mitigate these sleep quality issues. My personal choice for sleep masks is Manta Sleep. I actually didn't think I could ever use a sleep mask. I was pretty against the idea for a long time because I have a lot of sensory sensitivities, a lot of like textures and like clothes and things like that. A lot of that stuff really bothers me. And so the idea of having something on my face while I slept, initially, I found that to be a very off-putting idea. But when I got my Manta sleep mask, as soon as I put it on, I realized like, okay, this could work. It is so soft and comfortable. It took me literally like 5 minutes to adapt to wearing it. And I've been using it pretty consistently. At this point, I actually feel weird if I don't have it on. When I'm asleep, obviously, like it's normal during the day. Manta was kind enough to sponsor today's video, and so I'm gonna help them out by leaving a link in the description so that you guys can check their products out if a sleep mask is something you're interested in. I think it can have tremendous benefit for sleep quality, and I think they make the best sleep masks on the market. So if you're interested in this at all, please head down to the description and check out that link. Moving on to the morning, once you wake up. First thing I want you to do, literally the most important thing, like within 2 seconds of you waking up, is I want you to remember that however you feel right when you wake up, like the first 15 minutes of your day, you're in some certain physical and emotional state, right? The first 15 minutes are meaningless with regards to how you slept or how your day is going to go. I know I do it. I wake up and I instantly am like, how do I feel? Did I sleep good? Do I feel good? Am I okay? You don't know right away because the way that you feel in the first 15 or so minutes of your day is not a reflection of how well you slept or how well your brain's going to be working. It is a reflection of what stage of sleep you woke up out of. When you sleep, your brain goes through several stages of sleep. Some are lighter, some are deeper. You have less brain activity in deep sleep. It's more offline. If you wake up from a deeper stage of sleep, you feel horrible at first. You might have slept great. You might have had an awesome night. But if you wake up from deep sleep, you wake up feeling like you have been thawed from like cryogenic frozenness. There's got to be a better way to say that, but you know what I mean. Like you don't even feel alive right away. And it's because it's a dramatic transition. It's jarring because you went from being like completely unconscious to the point like you're almost dead when you're in deep sleep compared to light sleep. You're so offline you don't even dream or move. And in an instant you go from that to like I'm awake. That's a lot. That's hard, and it can make you feel pretty messed up. It has nothing to do with how your day is going to go. So resist the urge to instantly judge how you feel and project your entire day based off that. And remember that the first 15 minutes are nothing, they are a lie, and they are meaningless. Similarly, on that note, try to get up at the same time every morning because this strategy can actually solve the previous problem. If you have a wake time that you stick to 7 days a week, your body and your brain will start to figure out your routine and they will customize your progression through the stages of sleep such that you will consistently wake up out of light sleep. And those are relatively pleasant mornings. Those are when you feel like you were already almost awake before your alarm went off or before it was time to get up. So when it finally is time to get up, you're like, I kind of felt ready for that. I feel like I was semi-prepared to be a functional conscious being today. If you can do this, it is going to make so much of a difference in your mornings. I know that many of us probably have to some degree variable schedules, whether that's like you work Monday through Friday and then you have weekends off or whatever it is. If you can stick to the earliest time you need to be awake, if you can do that 7 days a week, I know that sounds like a lot. Your mornings will go so much better. So try to implement that if you can. Another strategy that is really helpful, this is the one I foreshadowed earlier when I talked about your phone placement, is trying to get out of bed right away. And I know that can be hard, but when you wake up and stay in bed, your body and your brain become confused. They don't know what you're trying to do. Your brain, especially like your subconscious brain, which most of your brain is subconscious, meaning you don't directly control it or even always know what it's doing. Your subconscious brain wants to help you. I know it doesn't always feel that way, but it does. But it doesn't always know what you're trying to do. And when you wake up and stay in bed, you are basically sending a mixed message to your brain. It's kind of like when someone texts you and they're like, we should hang out. And you're like, that sounds great, when? And then they don't answer you for a week. It's like, what do you want to do? Do you want to hang out or not? So your body and your brain, your subconscious brain, when you wake up and stay in bed, they're like, are we waking up or are we trying to go back to bed? Like, what's the plan here? And so they don't fully mobilize the cognitive and physiological processes that help you wake up and start getting ready because they don't know what you're trying to do. And that's why you end up like sometimes staying in bed for hours, feeling tired and feeling unprepared to get up the whole time because your body hasn't really committed to like, okay, we're awake. Let's do the awake stuff now. So if you can just get up out of bed, you don't have to do anything. Just like go to a chair, sit on the floor, roll out of bed if it's safe for you to do that. Just don't be in bed. Because if you get out of bed, it removes the ambiguity from the situation. And then your body and your subconscious mind, you're like, okay, I get it. I see what we're trying to do here. We'll help you out. We'll get things going. Now, that being said, don't start your day with work. Maybe that one seems really obvious, but I know there are some very, high achieving, conscientious people I've done this. Like I've rolled out of bed and been on my computer within 2 minutes typing emails and stuff. Don't do that. I mean, for multiple reasons. One is your emails will be terrible if you do that, but that's actually not my greatest concern. My greatest concern is that this goes back to alpha waves and beta waves. Waking up is the inverse of falling asleep. That was so philosophically brilliant, I should write it down, right? No, I know it's really obvious, but if when we're trying to go to sleep, we're trying to go from beta wave to alpha wave to asleep, when we're waking up, we're trying to go from asleep to alpha wave to beta wave. And just as it's not good for you to skip your alpha wave mode when you're trying to fall asleep, it's also not good for you to skip your alpha wave mode when you're trying to wake up. And when you skip that step, you skip a part. It's actually part of your sleep cycle and is part of your recovery process. So you miss that. And even if you slept well, you might still feel really tired and stressed and just burnt out all day long if you immediately just expect yourself to be like functional and doing stuff. So give yourself a 15 to 30 minute window where you can just do calm, quiet, relaxing things, not so relaxing that you fall back asleep. And I know this might be a very fine, frustrating window for some people, but try to find this happy middle ground where you're not encouraging yourself to fall back asleep, but you're not doing stuff that makes you feel like, okay, I gotta go, because that's just such a stressful way to start your day. On a very similar principle, try to stay off your phone for at least 30 minutes because stimulation, even if it's not inherently stressful, all stimulation to some degree stimulates, I wasn't trying to say that word twice, but I did, the release of cortisol, which is your stress hormone. So when you start your day with phone use, even if you're not doing like a stressful thing on your phone, I'm not saying you're like watching the news or whatever, it could just be like stupid cat videos, but it's a lot of stimulation right away. And even if you choose it, and even if it's stuff you like, I mean, it's kind of like waking up to someone like yelling in your face, right, first thing in the morning. It's a similar sensory experience, and it's just not a great way to wake up, especially if we're prone to stress and anxiety. So try to keep that first 15 to 30 minutes of your day as protected and stress-free as possible to start it off on the right note. In terms of liquids, try to start your day with water and not coffee. There are a few reasons for this. The first is that, to quote Matthew, well, not quote, because I don't remember exactly how he said it, and it was better than how I'll say it, to paraphrase Matthew Walker, the sleep doctor, caffeine in the first the first 90 minutes of your day basically does nothing. It's like if you already have this roaring bonfire and you throw a twig on it. The amount of hormonal and cognitive changes that your body goes through in the first 90 minutes of the day are enough to wake you up. Like, I know you may not feel that way, but I promise you, they are enough. Your body and your brain actually do know how to awaken. Human beings have been awakening for a while. They know how to do it without drugs, without substances. All the caffeine is going to do is basically increase your cortisol and increase your stress. Additionally, we lose a lot of water when we sleep. A, because we go a long time without drinking water, unless you drink water in your sleep, which that would be about the most adaptive form of sleepwalking I've ever heard of, and you probably don't do that. B, when we breathe, especially if we breathe through our mouths, which if you're like me and you have horrible chronic seasonal allergies, you breathe through your mouth all the time while you sleep, we lose a lot of liquid that way. And so we typically wake up maybe a little bit dehydrated. Mild dehydration can exacerbate stress and anxiety. So if you swap that first morning cup of coffee, and I know this will be a deeply unpopular suggestion, but please at least consider it. If you swap that early morning cup of coffee for some water instead, you might be shocked at how much of a difference that subtle little change makes in your morning. Please consider trying it out. Another thing you should do in the morning, brush your teeth. Not necessarily for dental hygienic purposes. Obviously that is important too, but not being a dentist, that's not really my concern. It's because if we accomplish, it's the same principle as making your bed, which I could have just said that, but there's already a book called that, so it feels like cheating. We want to introduce dopamine into your system early. Dopamine is your reward chemical. It's the feeling you get when you accomplish something, when you're like, yeah, I did that. I got that thing done. If we can get you like a quick win in the first 5 minutes of your day, it sets your brain primed to experience dopamine, primed to accomplish things, primed to experience reward. It's just a very healthy, adaptive way to start your day. It does not have to be brushing your teeth. You could substitute some other thing in here. But if you can get some kind of quick win, something easy, again, not work, but just some basic like activity of daily living task completed in your first 5 or 10 minutes of your day, it really sets your brain right for the rest of your day. Another nice thing to do in the morning, text a safe person. Mornings are lonely. Mornings can be isolating. You got a lot of thoughts. You got a lot of feelings. You might not have anyone to share them with. Now, if it's really early and no one's awake, like use discretion here, obviously. But it's nice to start our day with connection. Even if the person isn't going to respond right away, then it gives you something to anticipate all day long. Like, oh, I wonder when this person's going to text me back. That's going to be a good feeling when they respond. And it gives another reward opportunity throughout your day. The last two are a little bit different. We're going to get a little more into philosophical territory here, and even potentially a little bit more into spiritual territory. I'm usually much more of a behavioral person, but I can't ignore these two because they are really important. The first is gratitude practice. I will admit I am not the world's most naturally grateful person, probably lean towards the opposite of that. And gratitude practices used to really backfire for me, but I found a little tweak that I think you guys might think is helpful. When I think gratitude, I think remember the existence of good things. So my brain, pulls up this checklist of like, here's all the cool stuff about my life. And I feel bad saying this, but it doesn't do as much as it should for me. And I think the main reason is I'm really good at overthinking those things. Like any good thing I have is something I could lose. I'll think about, this is so morbid, but I'm just going to be vulnerable with you guys here. I'll wake up and I'll try to practice gratitude, and I'll be like, well, think about you got a wife and kids. And then the other part of my brain is like, what if they die today? And it's just like that voice gets in there no matter what I think about. And I've found that voice is quieter if I flip the script. And instead of thinking about the good things I have and therefore could lose or could have taken from me, I get more value out of thinking about the bad things that I don't have. I think about the absence of a problem rather than the presence of a blessing. So just think of something awful that isn't happening. And at least for me, that absence of a problem bizarrely accesses more gratitude than the presence of something good. Worth a try if you, like me, tend to struggle with gratitude. The last one, I recognize this might be a little out of left field, but hear me out, is to try to remember that everything is a blessing. I am very aware that it doesn't always feel that way. And that's not your fault, but I know that at least for me, sometimes when I struggle to appreciate my life and the things in it, it is because I'm being ridiculous about my expectations. And sometimes my expectations are the problem. I've often had a tendency to think that life should always be good and should never be stressful. And that, of course, is ridiculous and absurd and is never going to be true. And yet, because I set that bar in my mind, then when that isn't my experience, like, not only am I disappointed, I'm almost like personally offended at the world. I'm like, how dare you, world? Why aren't you the way that I think you should be? And part of me will probably always exist because I'm kind of a pessimistic, bitter, resentful person, but I'm trying not to be. And I've had this phrase in my head a lot lately, and I'm trying to believe it, and sometimes I can believe it. And the phrase is that every second of this life and every inch of this world is a blessing. It doesn't always seem that way. It doesn't always feel that way, but nothing is promised to us. The baseline for your existence isn't an average life or a normal life. It's literally nothing. Nothing. We're not entitled to anything. And so anything above nothing is something we didn't necessarily deserve. It's a bonus. It's a blessing. And I'm trying to see it that way. I am not going to act like I always succeed at that, but some mornings I remember that and it helps. And I take it very literally. This morning it was super rainy here. And I don't know why. I was looking out the window and there was a certain spot where there were like these rocks and there was so much rain the rocks were just slightly underwater, and it was literally like a 3-inch spot of the world. And I just looked at that little spot and I remember just thinking, that's beautiful. I'm glad that spot exists. I know this probably sounds really bizarre, but it was a moment I had today that I wanted to share with you guys because I thought it might help somebody. I hope that some of these 16 ideas are helpful because I know how much mornings can suck. And if I have helped your mornings suck a little bit less by making this piece of content, I hope you'll consider coming back again to hear what I have to say about the next topic that pops into my head. Take care, and I'll see you guys later.